listening to Octagon 24/7's podcast, MMA Fancast. It's MMA for the fans, by the fans. We talk about only the important things you want to hear.
Hey, this is Mike Goldberg, the voice of Bellator MMA on Spike. Join us right now for MMA Fancast.
Hello and welcome to MMA Fancast, brought to you by Octagon247.com. We are here with another episode. I am joined by my co-hosts, Jim Sahara Mooney and Andrew Dice Bailey. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to jump right into things. We have a ton to talk about today as we are post UFC 215, a card that had so much promise and that kind of fell apart at the last moment. Guys, what's your reaction to this fight card that we just got to witness?
It was a bit of a mixed bag. We had some ups and downs. We had some great performances. We had some not so great performances. We had a somewhat controversial finish in our main event. So, pretty much summed up the whole year of MMA for us. Gave us a bit of everything.
I'd say so. A little bit of everything.
For me, I didn't get to watch this, but I was following on Twitter, and it actually kind of juiced things up and made things a bit more exciting because especially for the main event, people were all over with the scoring and who they thought was ahead. I saw 4-0 going into round 5 for Shevchenko, 4-0 for Nunes, 2-2. It was all over the place, but it was interesting, to say the least, to follow it that way.
You had a birthday weekend, isn't that right, Sahara?
I did, and it was a surprise. I knew that it was a birthday weekend, but events were a surprise.
With your old age, that could have been a surprise for you that it was your birthday. I mean, being as old as you are. Anyway,
I'm 29 with 21 years of experience.
Taking a look at the card, there was a lot of good action. There was the main card really started off with a bang with Jeremy Stephens and Gilbert Melendez, and Little Heathen Man landed a couple brutal leg kicks early, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the night for that fight.
I don't know how many he finished with, but in the earlier stages, middle stages of the third round, he'd already landed. He was 22 for 22 is what the stat said. And, he just chewed it up. I don't know what it is with the scrap pack of the Diaz's and Melendez and Jake Shields of why they don't like to check leg kicks, but he didn't, and Jeremy Stephens looked fantastic.
That certainly helped his cause out greatly. And, there is something to be said about, winning a fight, or rather losing a fight and still being able to get fans that way. And I think Gilbert Melendez came away more popular than ever just by, withstanding that many leg kicks and knowing that his leg was shot in the first round, and he grinned and bared it and just dealt with it and tried his best and put his best foot forward, so to speak, which was his right foot after those brutal leg kicks.
Did you see the picture of it today that was released?
I did not. Oh, yes, I did see it. I actually not only saw it myself, but I had friends, other people posting it or sending it to me via text message, because it was just insane.
It's as big as his shin was as big as his thigh. Those kicks were nasty, and the location of them right at that upper calf. Those are not easy to throw. And if you get one of those checked, you could break your leg.
Yeah, one of the I did see the picture, and did follow that fight as well on Twitter, and one of the best fights that I recall where it was successful leg checking was with Weidman and Silva. Especially, the second fight. Obviously, he broke his leg, and I think that was years of just, brutal leg kicks, and finally his leg gave out. But, that was textbook leg checking. We didn't see that last night.
Well, and the other example I think of with some brutal leg kicking is Jose Aldo used to just destroy guys with leg kicks.
Killed Uriah Faber's leg.
Yeah, I mean, he used to it was like he was just swinging a baseball bat with his leg, like every time. It was so solid. Now, I don't think he kicks like that anymore, but when he was in his like mid-20s, man, those leg kicks were unbelievable.
It's Edson Barboza now.
Yeah, that was the kind of leg kick that Stevens landed early against Melendez a couple times, and Melendez really didn't. I mean, he had a puncher's chance at any point after that, but got completely dominated. I think two of the scorecards had him down. I mean, losing 30 to 25, and I think the other one was 30 to 26.
Yeah, it wasn't close, but where do you think Stevens goes from here in the featherweight division?
I mean, he's a career guy. He's the guy that's going to give you great fights, most of the time. Most of the time it'll be something exciting, but I mean, he's there as long as they want him there, but he's not going into the top 5 or 10 in the division.
Well, he's already 8th, isn't he?
Well, I mean, I don't see how, looking at his record, but technically he is. But I mean, I mean, I don't know. You had two guys that I felt that it's like a loser leaves town match, where they've just lost so many fights collectively between the two of them that how can they face another loss? I mean, that was the way Gilbert Melendez lost and gained fans. I mean, that's the way you can lose and still stay. And that actually ended up happening, but there were very few possibilities of that happening, and it did. So all the better for him.
I would like to see him, being the seasoned fighter, the traveler. I'd like to see him fight a younger guy like Yair Rodriguez. They're ranked similar in the rankings. Yair's coming off a bad loss to Frankie Edgar. And, of course, you get the Alliance alpha male rivalry back from Dominic Cruz and the whole team, because Yair trains with Team Alpha Male now.
Well, and the thing about putting Yair against Jeremy Stevens, it's a dangerous fight for him, and he's a young guy, and he just got put in against a veteran that took it to him. I give him an easier fight to like boost his confidence up. When you're young like that, to take 2 losses like that, you want to build those young guys up and not just throw them to the wolves, in my opinion.
See, I still don't think Stevens is considered the wolves. And looking at the division, it's just I don't see where they really. I mean, it's an interesting division, but I think they're tying up. Where is it? There's featherweight. And I think they're going to tie up Aldo with Lamas. I don't know what they're doing with Swanson. You have Yair at 7. He's one ahead of Stevens at 8. Stevens has already fought most of the guys in the division. Darren Elkins, he fought Cub Swanson. I mean, they could – I don't know. It's interesting. I still like the Yair matchup, but it's an intriguing division, but most of the guys have already faced each other.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting matchup. I'm in Yair's camp. I think he's got some dynamic kicks, very flashy with the knees. He's had big finishes that we've seen in the past, and I have a hard time really buying into Stevens, especially after what Frankie Edgar did to him at was it 205 Yeah, it was 205, and that's where he had the comment sitting behind. I think he was to McGregor's left, and he made the comment that he was the hardest hitting one sitting there. I think he may have mentioned in the division.
He said in the division, yeah.
Yeah. That's where we got the famous Alvarez soundbite.
Well, the question was actually posed to Conor McGregor. Who do you think or do you think you're the I don't – maybe it was – who do you think the hardest hitter in the division is, or something like that? Conor McGregor was asked some question relating to hardest hitting. Do you think you are, or something like that? And he interrupted and said, that he was the hardest hitter in the division. Guys, you take a look. Okay, Rodriguez, I think you're dismissing Jeremy Stephens way too easily. His losses are to some of the top guys in the division. I give you that Yair Rodriguez is a top young guy, but you talk about his loss to Frankie Edgar, which was a unanimous decision about Stephens. But take a look at Frankie Edgar's doctor stoppage win against Yair Rodriguez. That was a mercy stopping. He was destroying him. And those are Frankie Edgar's last two opponents.
I'm pulling that up now. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at Stephens, and it's been a while since he's really had a significant win. I would go back to, I don't know, maybe Elkins.
I mean,
I know he beat Renan Barao.
What about Dennis Bermudez? These aren't like chopped.
I'm not taking anything away from it. I just think that some of these fighters are more known for their name and being around for a while and being in battles. And, they're not at the top of the division anymore. And I don't think that they were quite near the top at the time. I think it was middle of the pack meeting middle of the pack.
So Frankie Edgar, top of the division. Max Holloway, current champion.
Loss.
You're saying these guys aren't at the top. Renan Barao was champion months before this. Dennis Bermudez is still one of the top ranked fighters in the division, and that's a win.
Yeah, it's just my opinion. I'm not sold on Bermudez. Renan Barao, I think, is a shadow of himself. Not the same fighter that we saw a few years ago. It's we're reached.
Yair Rodriguez, I don't think you want him to suffer two losses in a row. All I'm saying is to throw him in there against another veteran like that is a risk.
I don't know who else Yair fights in that division, though, that's not a veteran besides Doo-Ho Choi, the Korean Superboy, because everybody else in the top is seasoned with Edgar, Lamas, Swanson, the Korean Zombie. I mean, you have Ortega, I guess, at 6.
Who are we basing Yair Rodriguez's, greatness against?
I thought he was really impressive in that fight of the night split decision win against Alex Caceres.
And he was, but it was also a split decision.
Yeah, I guess it's doesn't look as good now when he knocked out Andre Fili.
Yeah. And I think we remember the Penn fight, but that was a shell of BJ Penn.
Yeah, I see the potential, and I just see the dynamic, diverse striking, and I really think that he's a big problem even right now.
He's 24. I think you give him a win and then you put him back, get him confidence again. You remember when Ronda Rousey got hit by Amanda Nunes and she flashed back? You could see it literally happen. She got hit and was like, oh, crap. And it was like any training she got, any defense she got went out the window. That is what I fear could happen with Rodriguez if he's thrown. And you guys don't I think you guys are too dismissive of Jeremy Stevens, and his skill set is very high.
Yeah.
Every fight he's fighting against the some of the best guys.
I just think he's like the gatekeeper to the elite. Like I think he's a fine fighter and he's good, he's seasoned, but I just think there's a gap. Like he's never been able to bridge it in his career. He reminds me of where Ryan Bader was. Ryan Bader was an excellent fighter, but could never beat that next. He could never get to that next level of fighter in the division, and that's what Stevens remind me of. And as far as the Rousey thing goes, I could see the flashbacks, but not for a striker like him. I mean, Ronda Rousey, it was a much different time. She was a judo fighter. I mean, her striking was never, it was never proficient. It wasn't just a dominant force of striking that was winning fights. And I also think the move for Yair to Team Alpha Male is huge.
I think that once Ronda Rousey's invincibility was broken, it's the same thing with Brock Lesnar. Once people saw that, hey, this isn't like someone that's unbeatable, then that mystique was kind of gone. The whole Tyson effect,
I agree.
Once Tyson lost to Buster Douglas, people didn't come in like ready to lose. They came in like trying to win.
It's the whole mental barrier thing. It's the same thing with when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. He did it, and then the next year, like 10 other people did it, and like within an 8-month span. You just got to get through the mental barrier.
Yeah. Next fight on the card. I'm trying to get back to it. I accidentally forgot to print it. And I gotta what was
Pedro, Tyson Pedro and Latifi.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, I gotta tell you, if I was listening to our podcast and was like, hey, I'm gonna listen to these guys' predictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to base my betting on their predictions, we would have very angry listeners on this card because our picks were absolutely, positively horrendous.
They really were. We passionately cover this and study it and do research, but that's what makes the sport so great. You still don't know.
And we just missed time after time after time. As a matter of fact, I didn't have the picks with me when I was watching it, and I came back and was like, oh, how far off were we? I knew I didn't do very well, but it was pathetic.
Yeah, we don't have the list available.
I have. Hang on, let me see if I got something here. I think I might. Everything, I think. I will be able to get it once Andrew starts talking. Or you guys start talking.
I know for a fact I got 1 of 6 right, and that was my man Henry Cejudo, but we'll get to him in a second. Following along on Twitter, Jim, I don't know if you're able to really understand just the interesting factor and just the visible potential of Tyson Pedro. He moves – he doesn't move like normal light heavyweights. He's got a really just diverse style. He moves his head. He mixes up kicks. He threw a question mark kick. I mean, this guy's huge, and it was beautiful. But he has 0 takedown defense, so Latifi was able to get him down and just give him a nice learning lesson about, this is the big boys time. You got a lot to learn. And he also got a lesson in wrestling and in cardio.
Well, yeah, that one was pretty straightforward on Twitter. I didn't catch all of them. I caught Nunes, Latifi. You two were, texting. And that's when I chimed in and started following on Twitter with Stevens and Melendez. And I just remember, I think Ryan's comment on that was Beast Mode of the Year by Melendez. Yeah, but Latifi, I saw several people say that he taught him what it was like to be mauled or what it felt like to be mauled. But it was, for me, this took me back to like when I was in grade school, like 6th or 7th grade, and you would take the transistor radio into school, and World Series games, playoff games were there were games played during the day, and being in school we couldn't watch it, so somebody would bring in a radio, and you would try to keep it on, have the volume down low, but one person would have it, and then you would pass notes around to the other kids in class, and that's how you kept up with what was going on. And it could have been like 2 innings gone by before I got another update, and it just added to the excitement of listening to it. And that's kind of the way it was for me on Saturday, following on Twitter, especially with Cejudo and Nunes. It was interesting to follow it that way. I would rather have watched it, but it was pretty neat to see it play out on Twitter.
So the first fight that we picked was Sarah McMahon and Vieira, Ketlin Vieira, and the only person that picked anything right was Jim. He picked Vieira to win via unanimous decision. She won in the what round?
Second, arm triangle choke.
Yeah,
second round. So Jim got a point for that win. Then the next fight was Jeremy Stevens and Gilbert Melendez.
I went down there.
And you both picked Gilbert Melendez. I picked Jeremy Stevens second round. It was a decision, so I got a point there. Andrew, you're at 0 points at this point.
Oh, I got
consistency.
I probably got 1 point, and that's Cejudo.
Then we had Latifi and Tyson Pedro. And, this was a matter of being 2 or 3 minutes into the fight and already seeing both these guys tired.
Yeah, both of them are breathing really heavy.
And granted, it was a very physical, grueling first couple minutes, but these guys collectively looked pretty tired 3 minutes into the fight.
Yeah, Latifi carried it much, much better, but I was just impressed with the potential of Tyson Pedro. That kind of striking is seldom seen with a guy that big, and it was impressive. And moreover, he continues the trend of Mark Hunt, Robert Whittaker, and now him, of Australians just being the nicest people. he took a picture with Latifi afterwards, like, "Oh, this guy's great, super nice. Thanks for the lesson." I just want to hang out with him.
Well, he's young. He got that first loss out of the way now, and that can be a good experience overall. You take a loss, yeah, but he didn't get knocked out. It was a learning experience, and he'll be able to benefit from that and be a better fighter from it.
Exactly. And he came out to Fantasy by Mariah Carey. This guy's already a legend in my book.
Well, you consider different things than me. We all picked Tyson Pedro to win, and so we all got 0 points for that. That's the first requirement to get points, is you got to pick the right winner.
Again, consistency.
Consistency, please. Know that this is not usual for us to have our picks this horrendous. The next fight was Dos Anjos and Magny?
No, Cejudo. We didn't pick this fight because it got bumped up late.
Oh, yeah. So the Cejudo fight. What were your thoughts on the fight?
Performance of the night. Henry Cejudo coming out in a Conor McGregor stance and just unloading combination on Wilson Hayes. I mean, finished him quicker than Mighty Mouse. This is the best I've ever seen Henry Cejudo. I was blown away at how good he looked. And just knowing that he has the gold medalist wrestling background just makes him even more dangerous moving forward. I loved it, and I'm really excited to see him fight Sergio Pettis next, which is the big rumor.
So what do you think about we could have kept the main. I mean, with how good Cejudo looked, we could have kept the main fight together and had Demetrius Johnson fight Cejudo again.
I wish that would have been amazing.
I mean, I don't know what Demetrius Johnson said about it was basically that's Bush League and like that's not how professionals do it and all this stuff. But I'll tell you what, you need to do it for the fans. And I don't know if that was offered to him, but that as good as Cejudo looked, I would have loved to see him look that because he didn't look like that against Demetrius last time. He didn't look confident. He came out there and looked great.
Well, I don't know if that would have been fair to Cejudo, and maybe even to Mighty Mouse to some extent, because when you're going through that fight camp, you're preparing for a certain style of fight coming at you, and based on everything that I saw some clips and everything that I saw on the Twitter feed said that his striking was like any other fight that we've seen him in before. That it was a totally different Cejudo that we've seen, and I got the impression that this is, I don't want to say a tune-up fight, but I mean he eyes himself as the one to dethrone Mighty Mouse, and I think maybe he wants the next fight or to get one more and get comfortable with this style because he definitely has the wrestling to go along with the striking if that's something that he is going to keep as part of his fight plan. It could be something that may give Mighty Mouse some fits, but I don't know if that would have been fair to either one of them. I don't think we would have seen the same.
I don't know about
Cejudo.
Fair. I'm worried about fair to the fans more than the fighters. I mean, this is a sport run by the fans, and I mean, you got to give the fans a good product, and to bust up main events like that when a couple guys could, they're fighters. They're supposed to be fighters.
You pull Jose Aldo 10 days before UFC 189 and you put Chad Mendes, who is immensely different with his style, to face your prized possession, your up-and-comer of Conor McGregor. And I think if the fight was offered to Mighty Mouse, he should have taken it. Otherwise, it's like when John Jones was offered Chael Sonnen and turned it down and they canceled a card.
Yeah, it's you can call it Bush League, you can call it whatever, but you can't. You got to be a company guy. You got to know that. I mean, I don't know. I just think if you're a fighter, then you do that kind of stuff, and that's what the fan favorites do. Mm-hmm. And that's not. I mean, that could be one of the reasons that Mighty Mouse isn't a fan favorite.
Yeah, I agree completely, and it was fortunate because he would have been like the rest of us and been shocked with that style that Cejudo came in there with. His learning curve is unbelievable, how fast he is just adapted to MMA. But, I mean, he had the crash course. He got the title shot really quick, and I'm really excited for it. Really excited for his future.
That may have been to his benefit, though, having had to hone his skills by, taking that. That was a first rounder, wasn't it? That's second round.
Mm.
Okay. But that may have been to his benefit to have taken that fight when he did, and now developed his skills to this level. If we do see this again, if it's not a fluke, the matchup between them two, which I see ultimately happening, it's hopefully it's not going to be a stinker. But where they feel each other out and are afraid to get in tight and mix it up.
When it was, I think we all forget when someone looks real impressive in one fight, they could look equally unimpressive the next fight. And, so when you get a shot at the title, you got to go for it. You can't wait around because there's no guarantees in this sport, man. This sport catches up to guys so quickly. Unless you're like the superstar elite level, like, Demetrius Johnson that's able to stay on top for, years and years. This sport catches up to people real quick, and these young lions come in and just take things over. All it takes is one loss to knock you down, and you might not ever be able to get back up again. And so, if I'm Cejudo, I know that it's probably not the best time to want that fight. You want a full camp to get your second shot, because guess what? If you lose and Demetrius Johnson stays champion, that's your last chance. I mean, you're not getting a third fight against him unless it's a couple years down the road and he's cleaned out the rest of the division again. But you're not guaranteed to be in that position again, so you have to take it when you get it.
No, that's a good point, Ryan. You got to take when an opportunity is sit in front of you, you got to take advantage of it and not, think, well, I may get the same opportunity down the road. You just never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. And so when you get an opportunity, you got to jump on it, and you can't count your chickens before they're hatched. He could have lost this fight. He could lose his next fight. You just don't know. And so I don't know.
Preach, Brother Ryan, preach.
Bring it.
I think that goes back to Michael Bisping jumping on the 10 days notice to fight Luke Rockhold.
Good point.
I don't think he ever would have got a title shot. He jumped on it, went in there, and made history.
It's a great opportunity and now Luke Rockhold had to sit a year because he couldn't figure out what happened.
He was modeling and dating Demi Lovato.
Well, I think maybe later on in this episode we should talk about what happened.
We just might.
He's probably going to be listening.
Neil Magny went against Rafael RDA.
Rafael DA.
Rafael DA.
Yes.
And this was so I don't know if you guys recall, but last week when we talked about this fight and we were previewing it, I said if RDA comes in with the game plan of just getting the fight to the ground, and that's his goal, and he gets it to the ground, he's going to dominate. But I said I question whether he'll do that, and ultimately my prediction was a Magny TKO in the second round.
I think we all took Magny.
Mm-hmm.
What happened here was he got an accidental takedown. Well, I mean, not accidental, but he wasn't really going for a takedown. He did a leg kick and got Magny to fall, and he just pounced on him. And then he just never let up from there. It was just brutal ground and pound. It was a very nice job by Rafael DA.
Rafael DA.
It was a beautiful submission, too. And, prove me wrong. I was the biggest RDA detractor around. I said he didn't have a division, said he couldn't compete. He didn't look good against Tarek Seferdine, and prove me wrong. And I'm really interested to watch him in this division now and see where he goes from here. People were talking about a title shot next, and I was thinking that was a little sudden. But
yeah, no.
He said he was the reserve in case Maya couldn't make weight at the last fight to step in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Performance of the night along with Cejudo.
Yeah, I would like to see him maybe fight a Carlos Condit or somebody else before he gets a title shot.
Yeah. You got to fight a guy in, you're not jumping for, what was he ranked in the division?
He was ranked 10th and Magny was ranked 6th.
Yeah, that's not you got to fight a guy in the top 5.
Yeah, you have Condit at 5, you have Robbie Lawler at 2, and neither have a fight right now.
Yeah, so there you have it. He's got to beat one of those two guys to even be considered.
Yeah, my thinking as well.
And I think he can. I think he's a guy that's very skilled on the feet. If he goes against a really good striker, he's got to get the fight to the ground. If he goes against a ground guy or a submission specialist or a grappler, he can beat any of those guys.
I agree. And it goes back to your point where you can look good in one performance and look bad in the next. He did not look good in his first one. He looked like a world beater in this fight. Yeah. So, and the way he utilized his leg kick against Magny is what he did to Nate Diaz at lightweight. It's almost like his jab to make up for his lack of reach. He uses that as a jab, and then that leads to his takedowns.
Well, think about how he looked against Ferguson. Ferguson just put a beating on him, and it made it look like he was outmatched and outclassed.
Well, Ferguson's a tricky guy. He matches up. He's an awkward guy. He's really good at everything, and sometimes those matchups make him look like a world beater, and sometimes he, I don't know. He's an interesting. He's very different than any other fighter.
He's weird, is what he is.
Yeah, he's very different. He's a different kind of fighter. I just don't think there's anyone quite like him, and I'm not saying like he's the greatest, and I'm not. He's very different, and he's very good. Mm-hmm. And he makes some awkward matchups.
That fight was also in Mexico City altitude, which favors Ferguson because he's got cardio for days, and I think that played a big factor in the RDA fight.
Well, but you would think that Dos Sanchez, the RDA, I can't pronounce his last name, would he would have the cardio for altitude too. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just matchups. That's a fight that I'd like to see happen again. But with different weight classes now, it's probably not going to be.
Yeah, Dos Sanchez is not cutting that again. No. He's not getting down to 55 anymore.
He looked huge in this fight.
Yeah. Okay. So we all took Neil Magny, second round TKO, third round TKO, unanimous decision, and we all lose. Next fight is Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko. And there was a lot of controversy here, guys. I'd like to hear what Jim, I know you didn't see it. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are, Andrew, on what your initial thought was post-fight. Did you actually score it mentally or write it down or whatever during the fight? Like, where were you at decision time before it's announced? Like, what were your thoughts?
Okay, so before the decision was announced, I always keep score during fights, and I scored round one, an incredibly boring round. I scored that for Nunes. I scored round two for Shevchenko. I scored three, and this is the one I knew was, in my mind, was going to turn things. I thought three was way too close, and I could see it favoring Nunes. I scored three for Shevchenko. I scored four for Shevchenko, and I scored five for Nunes. And I had a feeling that Nunes was going to get the decision, but on my scorecard, I had Shevchenko winning.
48-47. You scored it all 10-9s, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I scored it differently than you. I scored it first and second round for Nunes, and third and fourth round for Shevchenko, and fifth round for Nunes. But I thought the fifth round was a swing round. I thought that the only reason I was giving it to Nunes was because she had control, but she didn't do anything with it with the takedowns.
That I actually thought of you when that happened, because we talked about this on one of our first podcasts together. You say, I don't really consider a takedown much of anything unless you do something with it. And she just sat there while Shevchenko landed some shots on her.
Yeah, and that's exactly why. Now, if you land a power takedown where the takedown hurts, I give you some credit for a takedown. But if you get just a single leg or you end up grappling against the fence and you end up getting a takedown or a trip or anything like that. I mean, if it's a nice takedown that lands hard or something like that, but if you end up falling down on the ground and you end up on top of your opponent, unless you do something, if they immediately get back up, that's not a takedown to me. It's a takedown, but it's not anything worthy of points.
Yes, and the first takedown was basically by accident because it looked like Shevchenko was going for a judo toss over her hip, and I don't know if she fell, and then Nunes had better position. And so I don't even really consider that one.
I disagree. I think Nunes countered that because she switched her hips.
Switched her hips. Okay, it looked like Shega slipped, but I think you're right. But it was, and then they said the second one she just sat on her. There was nothing. She wasn't doing.
Yeah, and Shevchenko was the aggressor from the bottom.
Yeah, I really got the Tyron Woodley feel from Amanda Nunes in this fight. She fought not to lose, and I thought she was really too concerned with her cardio.
Oh, well, so here's what I was saying during the first 2 rounds. I was with Terry Dactyl, and I said, Shevchenko is letting Nunes get away with not working. Mm-hmm. She's not only losing this first round, I thought she was losing the second round too. That's a moot point. I said, she needs to make her work. If you're going to lose these rounds, make her work. Force her to work. And she wasn't forcing her to work. And so you can't both lose rounds and not force your opponent to work if you're trying to, tire them. Floyd Mayweather, McGregor. Floyd Mayweather just let McGregor wind himself out, and then he just was able to take over because he had the time. Mm-hmm. But Conor McGregor was working to tire himself out.
Yep.
Shevchenko needed to push the pace. She needed to make her work. Even if you're going to lose the round, make her work, and she did not. Shevchenko is very talented and very good, and she's too good to blame judges for her loss.
A couple things that stood out to me when I was following the Twitter feed. One was a comment somebody made about Nunes, and it said something along the lines of, has she ever won a round 3? So, I was following it, and again, it was, people were going back and forth on who was winning. I was following the live stats, and I didn't see anything by Shevchenko like this is where she started to turn it on. So then round 4 comes along, and people are tweeting, this is where she's got to step on the pedal and gas Nunes and force the fight. And it never came. Based on everything that I saw, it never came. We got to the 5th round, same thing. This is Shevchenko's last chance. And then you get to the end, and there's that kind of stumbling takedown, and a couple comments, in the Twitter feed were that may have sealed the victory for Nunes, because it looked like Shevchenko was a little sloppy and never really forced her will onto Nunes and kind of waited for an opportunity, but that opportunity never came along.
Yeah, I just thought it was way too passive. I was talking to Johnny Stats, and he was very upset. He thought Shevchenko should have won the fight. And I said, listen, you can't go into a title fight and be looking to get the judge's decision. You just can't. Unless you're dominant, you can't walk away. And there was no domination here by anyone.
No Love showed how to do that if you're going to win by decision.
Correct.
Agreed, yeah.
Exactly. The only way you can be upset, that was too close for anyone to be blaming judges. Valentina Shevchenko did not go for it. She didn't go all out. That's what she needed to do. And if her corner wasn't telling her 4th round, to be going all out. And I think it was an error not to be pushing the pace early on, because that's even though she was getting beat up, Nunes was getting tired in the first fight from working. She was getting tired and you didn't make her work. That's why she was able to be fresh in the 5th round. Sorry.
You're fine. No, exactly. That's why I agree. I thought on my scorecard I had Shevchenko winning, but even during the fight, I'm like, I'm not going to be surprised if the judges give it to Nunes. It's not going to be a robbery by any means. You didn't do enough. You didn't get a knockdown or do anything aggressive. Or, like I said, in that first round, she put her back against the cage and they just stared at each other for the most part. And I don't like the phrase, you got to like go in there. You have to win. You have to do something different than the champion to win. You got to take it. But I mean, you got to do something. You don't have to give some Herculean effort, but you have to do something. You got to. You have to beat the champ. And anyone that feels like she beat the champ, I just don't see it. Do I think that Nunes beat her? No, but no one in a fight this close can get mad at the judge's decisions. I'm sorry, you just can't. There have been way worse decisions than this. Way worse.
And I don't even think it qualifies as a bad decision. It's a super close fight.
Think about that fight that we saw at MSG 205 between Woodley and Wonderboy, the first fight. Yeah. And, the controversy around it. And, I guess in the end, did Wonderboy really do enough to win that fight? Woodley fought not to lose. Wonderboy fought not to get, I say not to get knocked out. And, both were tentative. You can't do that. If you are the challenger, you got to go for it. And I'm not saying that, she didn't put it all on the line, but there's other ways to go about doing that. And what we saw Saturday night was not the right way to go about it.
Yeah, I think the problem is that fighters are so tied up in having to win and being afraid to take Listen, the most successful guys are risk takers. Conor McGregor's a risk taker. He goes in there and he puts himself in harm's way and people love him for it. He makes a ton of money for it, and he can lose fights or a fight. He can lose fights and still be just as popular because he's a risk taker. Risk takers are rewarded in MMA.
The big thing I've seen going around today is the difference between champions paying, like when you win a championship fight and when you lose a championship fight. They think that is scaring some fighters to fight tentatively and cautious and just get out of there with a win. And it could be a trend. I mean, it's been evident with Tyron Woodley in this fight, but I don't think there's enough behind it to substantiate that throughout the whole company right now. Because you still have champions like Mighty Mouse fights to win. Cody No Love obviously going to fight to win. Max Holloway is going to do the same. But I thought it was an interesting point if they brought this the payouts closer together, if that would get rid of any of this.
Yeah, I mean, the win bonuses are nice. Should it be the question is the win bonuses, should they really be 50% of your pay?
It's a little much.
So that's why I mean that might be why people are so afraid to lose. I don't know. It's hard to say. Yeah. I also don't think that Bellator's, paying you the same amount no matter what happened, the outcome of the fight is correct either. So I don't know. It's hard. I mean, maybe the theory is right with the UFC and having a win bonus, but maybe it's too high.
I agree.
Too high of a percentage.
Yeah, I think it is, and it'd be interesting to see the kind of solution they come up with this. Now, Ryan, I'm interested on your thoughts on this. Do you think Nunes continues to fight at 35, and if she does, for how long?
Well, I don't think
she's big.
I don't think she wants to go up as long as Cyborg's around.
I don't know. I'd like to see it. And I'd like to see her without the weight cut, see if she can handle not be depleted in the cage. She handled it fine in this fight, but I wonder how much is taken away from her during the cut.
Yeah, I mean, that's a constant debate with these weight cuts and everyone. I mean, you have so many fighters that have moved up weight and done better because they were cutting too much. I can think of 5 people right off the top of my head. I don't know. I just made that number up. That have moved up. Anthony Rumble Johnson being the most ridiculous example.
Absolutely.
Donald
Cerrone.
Yeah. Donald Cerrone. You got RDA. Rafael DA. You got Jim Mooney. Oh, wait.
Mr. Sir Big Dog.
Mr. Sir Big Dog.
Thank you.
What a tool. At least he has good looking earphones on. Hey, Dice. Are you all right, Dice?
I'm good. I wasn't ready for you to call Jim a tool, but I guess I am now.
And this brings us to the main event of the evening. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson squaring off against Ray Borg. And ladies and gentlemen, we predicted this fight would be short, but nobody predicted it would be this short.
This would have been the only fight I got right on the card, and they got canceled. Come on, guys.
They take away the gimme from you.
And O has to go.
Yeah.
Ray Borg was pulled from the fight on Thursday evening. I don't think we found out about it really until Friday morning. At least that's what my memory tells me. I think his nutritionalist went on Twitter, and basically he's fired that nutritionalist since.
Yeah.
Because he kind of broke the news. No one knew that it was called off, but I guess the UFC doctors took a look at him and said he was not fit to compete. Now, he has vehemently defended himself on social media, saying that this was not his decision and the UFC doctors, he was sick, but he has not said it was, he has not stated that it didn't involve the weight cut, which he's had plenty of problems with.
Yeah, and once again, to our point, it's maybe a fighter that needs to move up, or we need more weight classes. And this issue's getting worse throughout the company, and something needs to be addressed.
No, I think that's a good point. I think they could probably add 1 or 2 more weight classes.
This doesn't apply to him. You have 125. You have 135. Well, I mean, what do you want? 130? No, there's
yeah,
no.
I agree with you in this sense. It's pretty much inexcusable of Ray Borg. It's a 10-pound difference. This isn't 185 to 205.
And I can see like heavyweights wanting a 220-pound division. Like I think that would be a great division, 220, 225. I can see there being, something between 185 and 205. Like those are all legitimate things. There's a gap there that's pretty wide. But come on. Either you can make 125 or you fight at 135.
Yeah, I like 165 too. I like that gap in between the lightweights and the welterweights as well. But yeah, between 135 and 125, that's just a little silly.
Yeah, I mean, you're not walking around at like I don't know. You're walking around at, if you're having trouble making 125, you're walking around at 145, 150.
Yeah.
So I don't think that 130 is going to, like, I don't know. Maybe you just need to fight at 135. He's 20. The thing is, he's 24 years old, which says to me his frame is going to continue to grow. and his metabolism is gonna slow down. And how old are you, Andrew?
25.
Okay, so as you get those couple more years on, you start to put on. It's easier to put on pounds, and it's not going to get easier for him unless it's a dietary issue, unless he's letting himself go a little too much, and that's been occurring over. He's missed weight twice out of the last 4 fights. This makes a third issue in 5 fights. Well, a fight that didn't happen. So I mean, yeah, he needs to figure this out.
I got a new nickname for him, though, since he can't make weight. It's Ray Smorgasbord. Like, come on, that's gold.
No, his nickname is Smorgas.
Smorgas, and his last name, Borg.
Ray Smorgasbord.
Borg. There
Nice.
it is.
I like it. I like it, Dice. Way to pull. So, does the wife still have your name as Dice in her phone?
Dice in her phone. She'll show you on Saturday. It is Dice.
Dude, Sahara, great job, brother. You named him.
Yeah, I have another name for him. I'm not going to reveal it just yet.
Go ahead, name him.
I'm going to hold on to it.
You will always be lights out to me, Jim Mooney.
I am lights out.
Jim Lights Out Mooney. All right. We have a UFC card, the third ever UFC card right here in our hometown of Pittsburgh, downtown. If you've never been to Pittsburgh, you need to come and hear our weird accents. We try not to give you Pittsburghese on the podcast.
You ought to come down and check it out.
Yeah, there are some severe accents here in Pittsburgh, but I don't think we have. I think, Jim, do you have a Pittsburgh accent at all?
I do not.
Okay. I don't either unless I'm trying to, but are you talking or are you
No, I was going to say pterodactyl does.
Really?
It's not heavy, but there are times when Dan that comes out. But we're talking about pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl. So we have a fight card, the first in about a year and a half here in Pittsburgh, and the third ever. The first one was in 2010, I believe. It was a Versus 4, UFC on Versus 4, and it was a great night of fights. And we had Cowboy versus Cowboy in, I'm going to say, February or March of 2016. And now we have 2017 in September 16th, and we have it's a fight night card. We've never had a pay-per-view here in Pittsburgh. Maybe that can be a Cody Garbrandt title defense.
Another little interesting about that February fight, 2016, it was on Sunday. We don't get too many UFC fights on Sundays.
The 2016 or the 2010?
2016 was on Sunday.
No, was it?
I think it was. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep.
Let's Andrew, you're going to have to pull that up just because I don't believe anything that
Andrew
Mooney says.
Do not answer this until Ryan makes a commitment. Ryan, you want to place a little wager on this?
I do not.
Okay.
I still don't believe you, though.
I do not.
I do not.
It's not a tumor.
February 21st, 2016 is a Sunday.
I told you.
You said it all along.
I know. You wouldn't listen.
It was not a tumor.
All right. So we have our third UFC event. It will be at PPG Paints Arena, which used to be Console Energy Center, the same location that the other two fights were at. And
home of the two-time defending back-to-back Stanley Cup champs.
Well, actually, they're not the two-time. They are the
so they're actually 1, 2, 3,
5-time.
4, 5-time and current back-to-back
Correct.
champions.
So first thing I want to talk about is this fight card lacks something very important. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It doesn't have a fighter from the area or even the region on this card. I believe that the UFC made a huge mistake by sending Mark Cherico all the way out to Las Vegas to fight instead of putting him. This card was already together when they signed him to it. Instead of putting him on the Pittsburgh card that will draw, you're going to get you sign Mark Cherico. There's 1,000 local regional MMA tickets sold right there, right off the bat, just that want to go see him in the UFC.
Easy. Yep.
Those are 1,000 tickets that are not sold right now. You're easily getting that, and you're getting the local promotion. Like, you put a local guy on the card, and you get everyone excited in the region for it. There's no local buzz here. Do you guys? I mean, Jim, do you hear any local buzz?
No, and what's interesting about, we're podcasting tonight. It is Monday evening, and Showtime tonight is doing a private screening, a free screening, but a private screening of Tough Guys. It's an MMA film. MMA started right here in the Berg, in Pittsburgh.
And yet they cannot put there are guys that are around here that are worthy of being on the undercard of a UFC fight that would sell tickets and get local interest in this fight, and the UFC has completely abandoned that, and it's a critical mistake. We all appreciated the opportunity for Cherico with Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series, which unfortunately he didn't have his best showing, and quite honestly looked gassed way too early. It was very unlike Mark Cherico, but it would have made a heck of a lot more sense to have Cherico fighting on this card and creating excitement in this town I just don't see it happening for this card.
Yeah, it's a big mistake. I don't understand it. I don't know if it was laziness or I don't know. I don't know what it is, but on that Cowboy versus Cowboy card in February 2016, Cody Garbrandt was on that card, wasn't he?
Big following too, yes.
Yeah. So
who's Cody Garbrandt?
I don't know. I've heard of him. He has a lot of tattoos.
Oh. Yeah, I would really like to see the UFC have a card with Cody Garbrandt headlining now, because that would be a card. You could put Adam Milstead in on the undercard, fighting at 205 now. I mean, that would be a very good thing. Also, I think Dominic Mazzata is going to do some damage in the 135 division in Bellator. He has 2 more fights on his contract, and then he's a possibility to be on a UFC card too. You get all 3 of those guys on a UFC card, this town would be on fire. It would be sold out. They would be selling, instead of only looking to sell out the lower bowl, they'd be selling out the entire PPG Paints Arena.
Agreed.
One can dream.
So we have a very good headlining fight. I don't know if you guys had a chance to hear today on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, his interview with David Branch. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
That is a must hear. You have to listen to it. David Branch, first of all, it was hilarious because he doesn't like Ariel. And so he was like, he was very blunt with him, and he's just like, I don't like your kind. And, you know, just because he feels, and a lot of people feel that Ariel is not, I don't know, not as stand up as you would like.
His kind. That's
kind of a sellout.
Maybe he didn't say that word. Maybe that's just my, you know, my version of it. But it was not like any like racial kind of thing. It was just like the type of person you are. It's a very funny interview. It's awkward, not safe for work language. David Branch tends to like the F word and use it very liberally. So, but it is a very interesting interview and definitely a must hear. But I think he's drumming up interest for this fight. He's got me excited for this fight. I haven't been this excited. And this is the best main event I think we've had in Pittsburgh.
I agree.
The best scheduled one. I think Barry and Congo ended up being one of the best main events ever.
Yeah.
but as far as like talent level and I don't know that there's not much like build up for the fight though. I don't think that it's on a lot of people's radar.
Yeah, I agree. And I love what David Branch is doing. I mean, the MMA Hour gets tons of listeners, building the interest. Luke Ross, they don't like each other. And it's interesting. It's really interesting. Jim, what are your initial thoughts for this one?
I don't know. I am kind of the thinking that it is an underwhelming one. Hold on.
Underwhelming what? What? Okay. We will move on from that. Off and on. All right, I'm just going to mute you, and which is you're muted. We won't be able to hear you even if you do talk. You can play with your mic and try to get it to work. I think I like the fight. I think it's a good fight. David Branch is on an 11-fight win streak, and he's been good. He returned to the UFC and got a split decision win against Krzysztof Jotko, which is a good win. Mm-hmm. And he's a very confident guy. He's a guy that has plenty of talent. That's not a question. It's, you know, when he's got big spots, he has not always pulled through, but I don't think that's a question of his talent. I just think, you know, he's facing guys that are great as well.
Yeah, during his World Series of Fighting run, I mean, he went on a tear and knocked off, Jesse Taylor, who just won the Ultimate Fighter Redemption. He beat Yushin Akami, who'd fought for the middleweight title before. The one thing that really concerns me as kind of a subplot for this fight is him making weight. He has struggled making weight several times, especially at middleweight. He and Rumble both missed weight when they fought back in 2012, and they had to have a catchweight fight at 195. And
it was probably more Rumble than him, though.
No, both of them missed.
Well, I know you can miss, but you have to have a catch weight at the higher one's weight.
Yeah, both of them missed, but he's done it several times at middleweight. Yeah. He's a naturally big guy, so I'm anxious to see if he can successfully make weight, and he's stepping in there with a killer. I mean, everybody has Luke Rockhold Bisping in their mind, but if you go back to what Luke Rockhold was doing to Chris Weidman, I mean, it was a close fight, but once Weidman made that one mistake, Rockhold pounced.
That ground and pound was sick.
Well, and
vicious.
there was never a point where Weidman like had control of the fight. It was always close until that happened. I mean, Weidman makes it sound like, and I'm a Chris Weidman fan, but Weidman makes it sound like he was winning the fight when in actuality it was pretty close. It was if one was winning, it was by 1 round. Like, it was a close fight, and that happened in the 4th.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Weidman acts like they were, oh man, I was beating him. No, you weren't beating him. If anybody, the sense of the fight was Rockhold had a little bit more control of the fight, and you could just feel Weidman just uneasy with those kicks and everything. And I think this Luke Rockhold is really scary because he seems motivated to make a statement after that embarrassing loss.
Yeah, Rockhold does. He kind of rubs me weird. He seems like he's smug.
Oh, he's very arrogant.
And so that's why I liked seeing Bisping beat him. But then I realized after Bisping beat him how much I dislike Bisping. So that was like a no-win situation, essentially. And here's the thing. Like, I'm not attacking these guys personally. I don't know them. I'm only going off of what I perceive, and who I'm not saying that he is smug or whatever. I'm saying that's the way it comes across to me, and because I don't want him to see me and beat me up.
That's very fair of you, but do you think he's going to beat up David Branch, or do you think Branch is going to back up his tirade today from the MMA Hour and go out there and stop Rockhold?
Are we doing predictions now?
Are we going to do them now, or do we do them live on Thursday?
We can do. Let's do predictions right now as we go over the fight card.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So I will tell you what I think is going to happen here. I think that Luke Rockhold is going to have ring rust. And I think that I don't think that he's prepared. Well, I don't think he's prepared the way he is prepared against a guy like Weidman. I think he's prepared more like he prepared for, once he knew the fight was going against Bisping, whereas he thought, oh, this is not all that close. And I think it's going to be, because of that, especially early, it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. I'm not ready to say I'm predicting Branch to win. I'm rooting for him. But I think Luke Rockhold gets a submission in the 4th round, and it will be it's going to be an inverted triangle Kimura.
I like it.
This is very common.
Yeah.
Very common.
So that's my call. Round Rockhold for submission choke. Okay. Who wants to analyze next and predict?
I'll go, Jim.
All right.
I'll take this one. All right. I think Rockhold is going to come in more motivated than some think, just because of the way he went out. I think he wants to come in and make a statement so he can, just immediately reclaim how much where he was before he lost to Bisping. I mean, he was it for the middleweight division when he lost. And I think he goes in there, but Branch is not a scrub by any means. David Branch brawls, and he's very successful at what he does. His Jocko fight I watched, I wasn't impressed. He looked a little hesitant in the big lights for once, but I think that's gone now that he's actually got one fight out of the way in the UFC. I think they engage each other, and I think he eventually tires due to the weight cut, because when we discussed, he struggles. and I think Rockhold finishes him via TKO late in the third round.
So the TKO, is that something that, I mean, does he stun him on the feet and then, or is this something that happens ground and pound?
I think he stuns him on the feet.
Okay. I mean, that's just curious.
Yeah, I'm thinking stuns him on the feet with like a left or right high kick or a question mark kick.
Sounds good.
So an interesting thing that I've noted in their stats is that that Branch has a 4-inch reach advantage. Now, in a lot of fights, that can be a big difference. But I think Rockhold has been in enough big fights to where, for the most part, he has respect for his opponent, and I think he's not going to
tell that to Michael Bisping.
Well, but there was history there. I do think he came in, to use your term, a little smug in that, and thinking that he already beat him once. This is just like a tune-up. This guy, took the fight on short notice. What does he have to worry? And we all know that anything can happen in the world of MMA. With that said, Ryan, I agree with you that there is going to be some ring rust. I mean, this is a long time since he fought last, but I think that he'll be smart enough to make his way through the fight, and I'm going with what Andrew said, and I see this going to a cardio situation. Problems with a weight cut. I mean, Branch is a pretty hefty guy, and I think what is going to be the difference is Rockhold's leg kicks, and I think he's going to set that up for some ground and pound eventually. And I'm going to go with a TKO in round 3. I'm going to say middle of the round.
So you picked the same thing as. Oh, that's original.
No, completely different.
You said middle of the round.
Late. Yes, he said late in round 3.
Okay. Wonder what you're gonna. Well, why don't we have Jim?
I was gonna say unanimous decision.
Say and predict.
Try and predict what I'm going to predict.
I got your back, Jim.
That's my prediction.
See that?
All right. Where's my next sheet? Oh, yeah, here it is.
So we're working backwards.
Yeah, we are working. Well, we're working by main event down. Mike Perry and Thiago Alves. I'll start. Mike Perry is someone who I'm really excited to see this guy fight live. He's an exciting fighter. He's a power guy. When he hits, people fall. And no one then says who is that guy. So I really like him. I think he learned from a fight against Alan Juban. However, you say potato, I say potato. He really struggled, I think, with Juban had a. Am I saying that wrong again?
Joban.
Why can't I say it right? Anyway, I think he really struggled with the distance there. And that won't be the case here for sure. He won't have to worry about distance because they're both about the same reach. He has unbelievable power. When he hits, it's lights out. It's happened time and time again. What is he? What's his record? 10-1. 10-1. I'm pretty sure, without looking, based on memory, I think all of his 10 wins are KO TKO. The guy has hands of stone and a good takedown defense, but he does struggle with all kicks, body kicks, leg kicks, and that was what really took him down in his only loss. And so then you got Alves, who has been at the top of the heap, and he is no longer at the top of the heap, but he's still that solid guy that shows up every fight, and he's a I don't know what's his ranking. Is he a top 12? He's still a very quality guy. His recent losses are Carlos Condit and Jim Miller, both very tough guys. He has recent victories against Patrick Cote and Jordan Main and Seth Baczynski. So there are he's a very experienced, very good jiu-jitsu, and all-around solid fighter. But I think he has seen his peak, and that is gone. And I see it being another knockout for Mike Perry in a fight that really allows him to showcase himself. I think it's a good matchup for him to be built up, because it's a name that people know and people respect. And so I'm going to go with Perry with a second round KO.
Go ahead, Andrew. I'm still looking at some things.
He still has to hear what you're going to say, so he knows what to predict.
Okay. I like all of the points you made. I'm really going to echo most of them. It's baffling to me. Think of Alves. He fought GSP for the welterweight title at UFC 100 in 2009. He's just been around the block. And I think we always talk about fight years, and I think he is ancient in fight years. He has been around. He's been in some great fights.
He's only 33 years old. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
A lot of guys have been in their prime at 33.
Yes, I just think
Randy Couture didn't even start their career at this point.
Yeah, and that's like, but Jose Aldo is only 31, and I mean they've been around forever, been fighting, and I think that takes a toll. And I think especially in this fight, it's going to show. I'm a big Mike Perry fan, as you are. He's exciting. I think he learned a lot in that loss to Joban. I think I'm really excited, and I think he's. Oh, what am I leaning towards? Let's go with Platinum Mike Perry via second round TKO. Finished it with some ground and pound.
All right, let me just refresh your guys' memory. Do you guys remember his fight with Jake Ellenberger?
Yes, that was
knockout.
What's that?
Knockout.
Do you remember how?
Yeah, the elbow, the crazy elbow, the crazy elbow.
Walk off elbow knockout. It was disgusting. You got to rewatch that. I rewatched it earlier in the week, and just because I wanted to see it again and remind myself why I love this guy, and it was so awesome.
Yeah, I only say second round because Alves has only been stopped once by KO, and that was by Condit in 2015. He's been submitted before, but only KO TKO was that loss. So I give him a round.
Mike Perry hits harder than Condit.
Mike Perry hits harder than most people.
Mike Perry's he fought a boxing match.
Yeah, he lost, but yeah, I saw that.
But I mean, hey, you're willing to go in there and do that. You got my respect.
Yeah, I wonder if Alves will try to tie him up, work out of the tie clinch.
Mr. Sahara.
Yes.
What you thinking?
Well, I'm going to read a quote, and it goes like this. You're fighting the pit bull. Actually, forget that. That's the beginning of the quote. It's all over. No after party for you. And that's a quote by Thiago Alves. However, I think Mike Perry is going to be saying, you're fighting Platinum Mike Perry. It's all over. No after party for you. I'm going with first round TKO. I just think that Alves is going to come in and try and force the fight, but Perry's just going to catch him with that power, and it's not going to go very long. And I'm going to go, actually probably like middle of the first round. It's going to be pretty quick.
Okay, so we pretty much just guaranteed Thiago Alves a victory based on our last week's predictions. UFC 215. If history repeats itself, Thiago Alves can feel pretty darn confident.
Yeah, I'm worried about Alves tying him up, though, and trying to really – I say dirty it up, but then I just think of that elbow he threw and how weird Perry can knock you out. So I feel confident we're going to get one right tonight, guys.
Yeah, he's an old 33.
Yeah.
He's been around a long time. He's an old 33. And I think Perry is going to be quick, make quick work of him. Not taking anything away from Alves. I just think that it's all the stars are lining up for display of power on Saturday night.
All right. Our next fight is one of the greats, Hector Lombard, and he is facing off against Anthony Smith. Let's switch things up. Let's let Jim. Jim, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah. I'm actually kind of excited to see this fight. I've always liked Hector. But like one of my most memorable fights of him is not probably a memorable one for him. And that's when it wasn't the H-bomb, it was the elbow from Henderson that knocked him out. But, it was a good fight up until that point. And I don't know, I've always been a fan of him, but he's one of those guys that is scary in the ring. He is a big guy, but he's got cardio. He doesn't really tire and, get gassed, and his opponents take advantage of that. He carries his weight well. Anthony Smith.
Wait, did you say he does or does not?
Does not. I don't see his cardio as being an issue. Anthony Smith he's got a big reach advantage, but he's a taller guy. It's a big size difference. I just think that Hector is experienced enough that he's gonna be able to weather the storm. I think Smith is gonna try and force his will early, because that's really the only chance that I see. And Hector's gonna take him down, wrap him up like a pretzel, and crush his skull. So I'm going to go with I'm going to say second round. See, I want to go with submission. I'm going to go with submission. And I'm going to say rear naked choke.
Okay. Mr. Nice. Andrew Bailey.
All right. Here comes Super Analytics. Hector Lombard has not won a fight since March 2014.
You took my line.
He lost to 2017 Johnny Hendricks. There is no way I can pick him because I have a pulse. I am going with Anthony Smith, unanimous decision.
Very nice, very nice. Very short and concise. All right, here's the deal, guys. You got Hector Lombard, you got Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith has won 10 of his last 11 fights. He's 3-1 in his recent UFC run, 3-2 overall. He had a single fight in the UFC in 2013, but this run he's 3-1. He's a very active guy. He keeps fighting. As a matter of fact, he's 29. He already has 39 bouts. This will be his 40th professional MMA fight. So a very active fighter. You got Hector Lombard, and with tons of experience for his age. You got Hector Lombard, who's 39 years old. He is a physical specimen and a highly respected guy who is past his prime. Now, I differ from Jim in how I look at Hector Lombard. Jim looks at Hector Lombard as a guy that doesn't have cardio issues. I look at Hector Lombard as a guy who is a different guy in the first round than he is in any other round of fight. He's very fast. He's very powerful. He's very quick in the first round, particularly in the first 3 minutes, first half of the first round. And then he tends to slow down and he becomes a less dangerous fighter, at least from a standing point. I think he is a cardio issue. However, that being said, I don't think Anthony Smith has anyone on his resume and his winning 10 of his last 11 that have anywhere close to the talent level or speed or power as Hector Lombard. He has a good combination of those things, and I think Hector Lombard comes through with a victory, and this is a good matchup for him despite the reach advantage that Anthony Smith has. I'm taking Hector Lombard, and I am saying that he gets a TKO in the first round. I think he's going to stun him, ground and pound. It's over.
That Johnny Hendricks performance rubbed me the wrong way. 2017 Johnny Hendricks is like just barely a step above a gym teacher to me.
Wait, is he still alive, Hendricks?
Yeah, he has a fight scheduled against Ryan's boy at 217.
Well, to each their own. Hey, one of us is going to be right here. We can't all be wrong here. There's the plus in that.
I'm getting off the schneid.
All right, next fight on the card, and we're only going to go through the main card, unless there's other fights that we specifically that we want to hit. And these are two guys that I really don't know. They're currently listed on the main card. I don't know if that's how it's going to pan out. They tend to, switch things around late sometimes. But we're going to assume that this is correct. And Gregor Gillespie versus Jason Gonzalez. And I will start with this one. Gonzalez has a little bit of a height advantage, being that he is 6'2" in the lightweight division. So Jim and I saw Jason Gonzalez fight live. We saw him at UFC 203, and he lost and got knocked out by Drew Dober.
Our boy, yeah.
Who is
Ricky Lundell knocked him out.
Who is a Octagon 24/7 favorite. He's going up against Gregor Gillespie, who is 9-0, undefeated kid, 2-0 in the UFC. He's well-rounded. He has 4 knockout victories, 3 submission, 2 decisions. His last fight was at UFC 210. He won a performance of the night bonus against Andrew Holbrook, and it was quite a performance. It was quite a knockout. It happened in like the first minute of the fight, and it was quick, and he pounced on him. Stunned him with a huge, what is it, a left hook?
Left hook.
And just knocked him to the ground and jumped right on him, and Holbrook was soon out after that. He's an former Edinburgh wrestler, and so that is close to our Octagon 24/7 headquarters in Pittsburgh, only about an hour and maybe a half away. That nasty left hook. He's got some skills. He's 30 years old and looked real good in his undefeated. That being said, my prediction with these two guys that I don't know very well is Gillespie will win by domination, and he will be it'll be a first. He's gonna have lots of fans there. I'm assuming, being that he's from New York, went to school at Edinburgh, close enough to home to have people travel, and I see him winning first round. Let's go with a TKO. Let's mostly from ground and pound.
All right. I agree with everything you said, and that left hook that he caught Holbrook with is just nasty, and not just powerful, but the accuracy of where he placed it. I mean, catches him clean across the chin. You couldn't even see it. And when Jason Gonzalez fought J.C. Cottrell is not a good fighter. He gave up a dominant position and lazily, I mean, can you even say he fought off the choke attempt from Gonzalez? Because he basically bent his head down and let him choke him out.
It was weird.
It was very weird. And I think if Gonzalez is in a position as bad as he was against Cottrell, that Gillespie's not going to let him out of it. He's not going to just get off of him. And I don't think it's even going to get to that point. I think it's going to be Gregor Gillespie first round KO. I think just from what I saw of that fight of Jason Gonzalez, I was not impressed. It felt like Cottrell was throwing the fight. It was weird.
I am not impressed by your performance.
All right, lights out. Copy me. Let's go.
Yeah, I agree with none of what you said. I think if the fight ends in the first round, it's going to be a knockout by Gillespie. But I think it goes longer than that. I see Gonzalez. I'm not really going to get into, all my reasons and the whys and ifs and all that. But I'm going to say Gonzalez by submission, second round.
Jason Gonzalez, second. So why aren't you getting into why? Because you don't have a why?
I do, but it's I flipped a coin. And I flipped it 3 times. So,
all right.
First time was heads. That meant Gillespie knockout. Second time was tails. That meant Gillespie on his back.
Okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the next fight, we have.
So I'm taking Gonzalez with submission in the second round, and I'm gonna.
Oh, you didn't say what's up.
I did not. Do I have to say what type?
I mean, it's just points. You don't have to go for points. I mean, you could go with the traditional RNC. I mean, that's the go-to.
The easy one.
You going to RNC?
Yeah, let's go with RNC.
Okay, dude, do like a inverted toe lock.
All right, let's do. I'll go with an arm triangle choke. How about that?
Head and arm triangle?
Yep.
All right. All right. Help me out with pronunciations there.
Smith.
Sergio Moraes.
Yes, Sergio Moraes.
And Kamaru Usman.
Very nice.
All right. See, I'm good like that. All right. What do you think? I really like Usman. I think he is a very solid fighter. How many fight win streak is he on? At least 5. I see 5 on my sheet right here.
Usman is on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight win streak dating back to VFC 41 in 2013.
Nice. I appreciate that. He has at least 5 fights in the UFC too. Does he have a 6th?
No, he won the Ultimate Fighter 21, and that was
the finale. Okay.
Yeah, that was his first.
Yep. Okay, so that's the first official UFC fight, even though he was in the house. And see, I stopped watching The Ultimate Fighter, and I shouldn't, just because there are guys that make it out of there and do stuff, and he's going to be one of them because I think he's solid. I don't think they've tested him like he could be tested. I think he's ready to take a step up in competition. I think this is a step up for him. And Moraes is a solid guy, but he's an older guy. He's past his prime. He's 35 years old. 12-3-1. Very he was on The Ultimate Fighter too, right?
Yes, he lost the Ultimate Fighter Brazil finale.
Yeah. Yep. But he's been around. He's a very good with submissions, and this is a fight I look forward to. But I think Usman is a up and comer, and I'm going to take Usman in the. I'm going to say it's a decision, unanimous decision.
Ooh. Okay.
That fits his track record. He is the decisionator. His last 4 have all been unanimous decisions.
That's not why I picked that.
All right, so his last 4 were unanimous decision, and then he has a submission on there in the Ultimate Fighter finale, and he's stepping into this fight against just a snake of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Sergio Moraes is a 2-time world champion gold medalist in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a 1-time European champion, and a 1-time Brazilian national champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has not lost a fight since June 2012. He had a draw in 2016 at UFC 198.
Who was that against?
Luan Chagas.
Okay.
In Brazil. And he's beaten Neil Magny in the stretch. He choked out Neil Magny in the first round. And that was submission of the night at UFC 163. And Usman is interesting. He has a great nickname. He's the Nigerian Nightmare. Excellent nickname. Almost as good as Schmorgas. But he's good. And
Moraes is the Panther, though.
Yeah, Usman's. Yeah, they're both good nicknames. But I am going with the Panther because of his snake-like tendencies on the ground in a 3rd-round submission. Let's see, what kind of submission should I go with here?
Wait, who did you take?
Moraes.
Oh, good.
I took Moraes. I want to be a little different. I'm going to go with Moraes via – oh, wow, he has an Americana submission on his record. That's pretty cool. I'm going to go with let's go with an RNC. That Americana choke's impressive.
He has not lost since 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Do you know what card he was on? That was his first UFC fight. It was Silva versus Rich Franklin.
Yeah, he's been around, man.
Yeah, that's impressive.
He was still competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments just a year before that.
Yeah. All right, Jim Mooney.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This is where you say stuff about the fight, or you could just...
I am Jim.
Okay, moving on.
Okay.
Next fight.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as Andrew on this. I think that Moraes has too much jits coming at the Nigerian Nightmare. And I see this going actually to a decision. I'm going to go with a unanimous decision for Moraes. I think his last 3 victories have been by decision. It's been a while since he's had a sub, so maybe he's due. But I think that's the way that it's going to end up. Unanimous decision for the Panther.
All right. Moving on to the heavyweights, we have Justin Ledet versus Zhu Enyawa.
He's big.
Azuna Enyawa. Yeah. So he's a Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series fighter. He won the fight. He didn't get a contract, but he was able to take this as a late replacement. Just the other day, Ledet's original opponent had an injury, and they gave him the call, and he answered the call, which a lot of people at this stage would not do. Taking a look at his Dana White Contender Series fight, he fought well. He got a knockout late in the second round, if I remember correctly. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He's 14-4 in his professional MMA career. He fights out of this state right here in Pennsylvania, Langhorne. And his last loss, interesting enough, was to Daniel Spawn, who was also on Dana White Contender Series and was on The Ultimate Fighter. He lived in the Ultimate Fighter house. He did not win The Ultimate Fighter, and he did win his Daniel Spawn won his Dana White Contender Series fight, but he did not get a contract. As did and Yawu did not either, and he is got this call. Moving on to Justin Ledet. He's an undefeated fighter, 8-0-1. He has one no contest due to an accidental eye poke. He's 2-0 in the UFC. Pretty impressive UFC. 2 guys that are pretty good fighters. Mark Godbeer doesn't have the best record, but he's a solid guy. I'm impressed every time I see him win and lose or draw. He always puts on a good show, and he also beat Chase Sherman, who I've always looked at as a solid fighter as well. Justin Ledet has really fast hands. He's not an imposing-looking guy, but he's a very well-rounded fighter. He has very fast hands. He's a boxer, and very quick hands, knockout power. He can surprise you because his last fight was a submission, and he can actually, it was Godbeer that was a submission. Was that his last fight? I don't know.
That was his last fight.
Okay, I thought so. So he does have submission skills as well. The boxer got the submission in his last fight, and what else? Solid guy. He doesn't look like he's not the guy that you would see out and think, wow, that guy's got to be an MMA fighter. He doesn't have this towering physique or anything like that, but he is very good and very impressive. He's never lost. That being said, taking this fight on short notice was, you got to take advantage of an opportunity, and not having that contract, he did take advantage of that opportunity, but I don't think this is going to be a good outcome for Zoo. And I am taking Justin Ledet to finish him via TKO late in the first round.
I know nothing about Zoo except for what you just told me, full disclosure. But with Ledet, I agree 100% with your assessment over his last 2 fights. Mark Godbeer is exactly one of those guys who you always forget about. And you're like, is he good? Then you watch him fight, and you're like, Mark Godbeer is good.
Yeah.
Like, he is very good. And Chase Sherman, the vanilla gorilla, great nickname and one of the best Twitter accounts on there for fighters. He is an excellent fighter. Bright future, great heavyweight. And the guy's taking this, his name Zoo.
His it's shortened named as Zoo. His real first name's Azuna.
Oh, Azuna.
Azuna and Yawa.
Oh man, I almost want to change my prediction solely because of his name.
No,
but
and Yawu. Sorry.
Azuna and White. Oh man, that's beautiful.
But his nickname is
Czech Congo's jealous.
In the darkness.
Czech Congo is very jealous.
Jim, I'm sorry. We were talking at the same time. What did you say?
I said Zoo's nickname is the Ghost and the Darkness.
Oh man.
I think his actual nickname is Eighth Wonder.
Oh, the Ghost in the Darkness. That's great.
That's what it is tonight.
Oh, I want to go with him so bad. Nope. Ledette, I agree with Ryan. First round, TKO, middle of the round. Late notice is going to kill him.
I didn't see Zoo as having a very good gas tank when he was on the Ultimate or Dana White Contender Series. Even though he got the late knockout, he looked tired, and I don't think it's going to fare very well for him here. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I don't know much about Zoo. Looking at his record, it's misleading because it shows that he's gone late into fights, 4 rounds, a couple times, 5 rounds.
You should probably take him.
Yeah, but I don't know how much stock to put into that. If he's, got good cardio for a big guy, or if it's just, because of his opponent. He's an unknown for me, but I like Ledette. Ledette is solid, and I just think that he's going to be too much for the Ghost in the Darkness. Although as scary as he appears, I'm going with Ledette, and I'm actually going with submission in the first round, and I'm going with RNC.
Submission, RNC first for Ledette. All right. That wraps up the ones on the main card. Are there any the undercard you guys want to talk about? We have some good heavyweight fights. I think Anthony Hamilton and Daniel Spitz is a good fight. We have Uriah Hall.
Uriah Hall's on there, yeah.
And Krzysztof Jotko. Those are. I mean, we have another. There's a third heavyweight fight, right? Hamilton and Spitz. Oh, we must have already gone over it. Who's the third one? Why am I not thinking of? Sorry.
No, I wanna say something about the Daddy Longlegs, Daniel Spitz, and Anthony Hamilton. Daddy Longlegs is going to get this win. I was very impressed with him in his loss to Mark Godbeer, and Hamilton's lost several fights in a row, I believe. I think he's 2 or 3 in a row. Check. But yeah, I like Daniel Spitz's. Yeah, all right. So Anthony Hamilton's lost 1, 2, 3, 4. He's lost 4 of his last 7. His wins over, nobody notable. But I think Daddy Longlegs Spitz is going to finish him second round.
Well, Spitz took that Godbeer fight on short notice.
Yeah, exactly.
That was Todd Duffy's fight.
Yep.
So he did take that on short notice. I think it was just a couple weeks. And so he has a full camp to really make amends for that against Anthony Hamilton. I also like that, like him in that fight as well. But it's a good chance to showcase. He's a tall guy. He's got good length. I think he's 6'7".
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be a good fight as well.
And I also like Uriah Hall and Jotko. And I like Jotko to hand Uriah Hall his 4th loss in a row.
Man, does Uriah Hall disappoint?
Yeah, I think it was you, Ryan, that said he has all the skill. He just doesn't have that killer instinct. He's just
I don't think he has the aggression.
yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the killer instinct because I don't think he's aggressive enough to need the killer instinct. Maybe he has it. I just don't think he goes for it.
Yeah, I think we've seen him with that killer instinct, but I think it's the aggression that is missing because he's had some highlight reel knockouts.
Most
very
of them
flashy.
are out of nowhere.
Right, exactly.
And that just shows that he can land a random great shot, but he's not the type that's going to really push you and go after it. And that's, I think he has the talent and the power to do that. And I think he's letting his career slip away by not being aggressive.
And you know who Jotko's last fight and loss was to, don't you?
It was to what's his name?
David Branch.
Yeah.
Branch, yeah.
Really
Branch
close
fought.
fight.
He fought on the
That was
2010 card.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had 2 stints at the UFC.
Wait, you mean Branch fought in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Really?
Indeed. I'm pretty sure that he did.
What card was that?
I don't remember
2010. I thought he was on that Pittsburgh card.
He was on
2010.
Marcourt Polaris.
No, I don't think he was. I think Jim's a big.
No, he wasn't in Pittsburgh.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I have it up right now. He was in Plains, Pennsylvania for Pure MMA the beginning in 2012.
That's what Jim meant.
It is. You know what, Ryan? You are. You are wrong.
I think that's about covers us. That I have no idea what time we started recording, but I have a feeling we're well over our allotted 1 hour.
Yeah.
That being said, do you guys have anything else? Quickly.
Nope. I'll see you guys Thursday, though.
Jim?
I'm good.
All right. We appreciate you listening. Again, it's very important that you like us on Facebook, subscribe to this podcast. Check us out on octagon247.com. We have pictures of Jim Sahara Mooney all over the place, so you definitely want to check that out. And we appreciate you listening. Like us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on all media outlets. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Like us on Facebook. What else? Anyway, thank you all. We appreciate it. And on behalf of Sahara and Dice, this is Ride Dog signing off saying thank you and God bless.